Well, hello everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode 1 of The Athletic Edge with your host Zaviyar Farhan. Today we have a very interesting guest with Ahmed Anwar to talk about various footballing topics. How are you feeling, Ahmed?
Hey Zaviyar, thanks for having me. I'm feeling good. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, a lot has happened in football recently, with a lot of transfer sagas going on. Various moves happening, and there's a big change up in the world of football recently. So, I want to get your takes on various transfers that have happened this season, and moving forward. Obviously, next year we have the new Champions League tournament. Way they're going to change up the formatting of the tournament. So there's a lot that's going to change in the future of football. I guess we should swiftly move on to the first topic. And obviously, we've had a lot of transfers this season. And I just want to get your topic on Saudi Arabia. They have absolutely taken over world football, in the sense that they have had so many transfers this season of very, very big names. I mean, they have the current Ballon d'Or winner, Karim Benzema, joining Al-Ittihad. So I just want to have your take. What do you think about Saudi Arabia and their influence in football nowadays?
All right. So before I talk about Saudi Arabia, I think the one thing that we need to understand is that the transfer market is always an exciting time in football, firstly. And the point that I want to make is that the transfers are all connected. It's kind of like a supply and demand kind of thing. So while you are saying that, okay, the Saudi Pro League was able to get big names such as Benzema and Golo Kante, and more recently Ruben Neves and Serge Milinkovic-Savic. I think when you get down into the details and try to dissect exactly the context in which these signings were made, then you can like understand where they're coming from. So, first of all, Karim Benzema is in the tail end of his years. Yes, he is a Ballon d'Or winner, and he is a legend of Real Madrid. But the fact of the matter is that Real Madrid are now transitioning. They're forming a new team. They have an amazing lineup of young football players. Lenny Valverde, and recently they made the marquee signing of Jude Bellingham. So now they're building back up and they're signing real superstars. So it has been long speculated that now Real Madrid will be signing Kylian Mbappe. It was the same thing a few years ago, but at that time, Mbappe signed a new deal with PSG. But the thing is that, and this kind of segues into the Mbappe saga, is that now Mbappe's current deal is up next season in the 2023-2024 season, and he has yet to renew his contract. So by the end of this time next year, he'll be able to go to any club for free. So at this point, when you look at it from PSG's perspective, okay, you don't want to lose your biggest asset for free. All right. And that's like a basic common sense. So what do? You try to get him to sign a new contract like you did the previous time. But if he doesn't want to, if he's stringent, if he's strict with it, so you can either convince him to sign a new contract. If he doesn't, then you'll have to sell him. Otherwise, this time next year, you're going to lose a lot of money. So, with this in mind, also the fact that now thinking about it from Benzema's perspective, okay, I'm in the tail end of my years. They're gonna get a new replacement for me. I'm gonna get limited game time. So what do I do? So it's pretty natural to think of it from this perspective that he would be looking to make a move. And it just so happened that the move is coming from the Saudi Pro League. That clubs in the Saudi Pro League were interested in him and they were offering him immense wages. So when you think of it from a human standpoint, okay, so like you said, Benzema is a Ballon d'Or winner. He has nothing left to prove or achieve in football. I mean, he could have been a better part of the France squad, but that is a whole different discussion in and of itself. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it makes sense for the guy to be looking for transfers in the first place, and it's not really, you could say, a bad thing to be moving to a league that is not well renowned or not that competitive anymore, because now that he's in the tail end of his years, about it's just about taking home the bag now. I mean, he has accomplished a lot in football. So when you think about it from that perspective, it makes sense. And kudos to the Saudi Pro League for dishing out this kind of cash, because now what they are doing from their perspective, they are getting top tier superstars. So I hope
Yeah.
make sense of the whole cycle of the transfer market. Like when you try to think about it from each and every single actor's perspective, you kind of understand where it's going. And this also ties into the Mbappe saga, that now that Benzema has left, they need a striker. And it has been, like I said, long speculated that Mbappe is going to be the guy who's going to replace him. And maybe that's why Mbappe is not signing his contract extension, because now he knows that Real Madrid, they need a striker and I'm available. So that's how it's interconnected, as I wanted to just point out.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that standpoint that the media has pushed this narrative that Saudi Arabia, is taking over football with signing the likes of Benzema, Conte, but Conte has had a very injury prolonged seasons in the last couple of years, so there's no doubt that he's also entering that twilight. But must be said that there are a couple of signings that you just sit there and wonder. Someone like you said, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Me being an AC Milan supporter, as you can tell, we were rumored to sign him a lot of times in the past 5 years, and he's 28, so he's entering the prime stage of his career. And you wonder. I know he's done it for the money, but is it really that beneficial for his career? Because recently we have seen countries with lots of money swooping in, buying big players, like we saw Oscar, Hulk, all these guys signing for the Chinese Super League a few
Yes.
years ago. So at that point, the Oscar signing had shocked everyone. So it's like, you understand why they're doing it, but when you think about it, in terms of the passion, is it really worth going to these countries and making that earning and like removing yourself from footballing history?
I completely understand your point of view, and I actually wanted to make this point, but I didn't want to stretch it out too long. Like the Saudi Pro League is what the Chinese Super League was in the past few years. It was a bubble, and a lot of top tier players were going to the Chinese Super League. I think Marwan Fellaini, Oscar, as you mentioned,
Anderson
you talked,
Talisca.
yeah. So here's the thing: the Saudi Pro League is a bit different. I'm not just saying that because of the money. I'm saying that because now they're able to attract not only established superstars, not only people who players who are in the tail end of their years, like you said. Now they recently signed Serge Milinkovic-Savic. They signed Ruben Neves, players that can go up a level and be more competitive and perform at the highest level of football. Now, what I want to stress here is that there is an obvious human element. What is that human element? I think what we need to realize is that not all football players love football. Okay, so hear me out, hear me out. Some people are only playing football because they are good at it. For some, it is only a job. And for any working class citizen or a person who's had a job, your head will always, always be turned at the prospect of making more money. That is a fact. Now, we have seen the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, and these guys truly had passion for the sport. And I'm not saying that all players don't have passion. Like, it's a mixed bag. A lot of players have passion for the sport, which is what propels them into attaining those heights. A key example of this, I would say, are Mohamed Salah, Kevin De Bruyne. These are basically redemption stories for Chelsea fans will know. And the point that I'm trying to make is that it's not inconceivable that in the near future that players, like in the same sense that Oscar was attracted to the Chinese Super League, that now younger players will now be attracted to the Saudi Pro League. Now, we are not at that point yet that now new and upcoming talent is being attracted by Saudi Arabia, though you can make the point that Mbappe was destined for Real Madrid. He's a huge Cristiano Ronaldo fanboy, and it was his dream move. but he still signed a contract extension, I think, in the previous years. And why did he do that? Because PSG offered him a lot of money. The Qataris offered him a lot of money. What is stopping Saudi Arabia to offer him even more than that? Considering they're paying 172 million to Benzema per season, why can't they offer 200 million to Mbappe?
Yeah.
And going about past performance, now I'm not going to make any assumptions or now I'm going to make any judgments about Mbappe's character. Going by history, he prioritized money over footballing heritage to stay with PSG. So it can be it that makes sense to think about it that Mbappe might choose the Saudi Pro League over Real Madrid in this very season. It is a plausible outcome. Now, as I said, that there's a human element that a lot of players just treat it as a job, but there is also another element. That other element being that a lot of the kids in academies, they are not from well-off families. Not a lot of people are financially stable enough that they have the choice to pursue their passion in their career. This goes for everyone. So think about it from the perspective of kids playing in the academies who have families that need to be fed. Like I'll give the example of Moses Caicedo. He was being, I think he got a new contract in Brighton
Yeah.
because he wasn't being paid that much, and that is why he made a public transfer request to Arsenal. I'm an
Arsenal.
Arsenal fan,
Yeah.
so I follow that quite closely. So players from that background are quite a few that come from third world countries and they need to feed their families and they want to earn more as much as they can in order to afford a better lifestyle. And then that's the need. Now, what is the supply? The Saudi Pro League that is offering generational wealth. Like you can make the point that Benzema and N'Golo Kante they only dished out that much cash for them because there is a lot of brand recognition to their names. But the day that the Saudi Pro League will be able to attract that talents like Moses Caicedo, Phil Foden, or Bukayo Saka, the young crop of players that play at the highest level internationally and are currently playing at the highest level of football, when they are able to track them, if they have the need for providing for their families, then it makes sense for players. I'm just saying that it makes sense for them to prioritize the Saudi Pro League. So it makes sense. We understand it. And then coming to your point that they're missing out on the best of the best in terms of competitive football, I mean, that's where priorities come in. So that's basically my answer or my take on this.
Yeah, I personally completely agree with your perspective here because, um, in the sense that I don't know if you've heard about the Celtic winger Jota, he signed with Al-Ittihad as well, and
Yes.
people were, hyping him up, and there was this general perception that he was going to be the next big thing in football because his stats with Celtic this season were unreal. And then I opened
Ah,
Instagram in the morning, and I saw him signed, and I was completely surprised because this reminded me of Oscar, because I remember Oscar was labeled as the next big thing as well after that 2014 World Cup, and he moved to China from Chelsea. So
okay.
I can understand why he's doing it because there is a financial perspective to it. And obviously, from a general standpoint, a person might think that, oh no, he's throwing away his football career. But if you take a deeper analogy towards the matter, you'll figure out that he's doing it for personal reasons more than he's doing it. And there's a basketball player named Paul George. He, on his podcast recently, he said that most basketball players aren't in love with basketball. And you made a brilliant point there that most football players don't enjoy that.
Exactly. And while I know about Jota, he plays for Sporting Lisbon, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
sorry, Sporting Lisbon.
He used to play for Sporting Lisbon. I don't. So here's the thing. I knew about him, but I'm not really well informed about his stats or how big of a thing he is. I knew about Oscar because I follow the Premier League quite closely because that was a genuine shock. But then again, we come back to the same argument that it's not wrong for a person to they have different priorities in their career. For example, if you can apply that to any career. For example, if I want to be an artist, I can either try to refine my craft and become the best of the best in creating an artwork. Now here's the caveat: the best artwork that I can create, a lot of people may not even know what the hell it is. It may not have commercial value. So there's that facet. And the other facet is that I can make something that is commercially valuable and earn a lot of money and not really caring about improving my skills, just getting enough skill that I'm able to produce something that's commercially valuable. So I hope that's a good enough explanation, but that's basically the point that I'm trying to drive home. And it makes sense for Benzema and N'Golo Kante, Koulibaly, although I don't understand why Edward Mendy was let go by Chelsea. I mean, he was a pretty decent keeper. I mean, he made a few Loris Karius, he had his Karius moments.
Against Brighton, yes.
I actually thought that the guys, personally, I'm not going to like go on record or something. Personally, I just thought that he's better than Kepa, but I mean that's just me. I mean, who am I to make judgments on players? But still, that came as a bit of a shock to me. But Ruben Neves and Serge Milinkovic-Savic were the bigger like blockbuster signings. And even though SMS, Serge Milinkovic-Savic, is 28, but even 28, 29, that's a pretty good age now. What we need to understand about the difference between age and players' performance is that it's not the same as it was a few years back. Now, Zlatan, he played for AC Milan till 42. You might know this better than I do
Yeah.
exactly his age when he retired. And his infamous line that Zlatan is not retiring from football, football is retiring from Zlatan. So the thing is that with today's medical technology, like even a player's age is not that concrete of an indicator of their performance. That's what I'm basically trying to say. So Serge Milinkovic-Savic at age 28, I think he can easily, given his physicality, he can play up till he's 30, 32 at the highest level if he wanted to. So now you cannot really judge a player's tail end years by their age anymore. The only reason I say that Benzema and N'Golo Kante is at the tail end of their careers is because N'Golo Kante had, like you said, a very injury-ridden season. So recovering from injury and then those kind of things like Sensio from Real Madrid, he's not really been the same after his injury. So injury concerns play a part in a player's performance and whether or not they're in the tail end of their years. Benzema actually goes against this because as he aged and as Ronaldo left, he actually became better and better in his show and finally won the Ballon d'Or. Completely deserved it. No qualms about that. But the point is that there is a genuine threat that now the best players in the world, football players in the world, will now be shipped into the Saudi Pro League. Like there is genuine concern regarding that, and you can't really blame them. They're being paid more to play there, so why won't they?
Yeah, I think if you look at it from a personal point of view, I mean, people who do go on about, oh, he's left his career and so on, but like if you ask them the question, would you take $200 million to, play in a non-professional league where it doesn't impact you much? Because we've seen football is a tough sport mentally as well. I mean, Dele Alli, we've I won't go into that topic that much. It's quite sensitive, but we've all seen the interview, the stuff that he's gone through. It's tough, and I can understand why a person would want to go into that realm of, what, I'm going to get the money, I can supply my family for generations to come. So it's very beneficial. And I think now we can, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just a small point. Now, in Delhi Ali's case, assume that when he had a very successful stint in Tottenham when they reached the finals of the Champions League. After that, where the guy was, I think that was the kind of time when he was disappointed that he was unable to score a hat trick against Real Madrid. I think he only got two goals. So imagine that if, given his situation and what we know about it, if he had gotten the offer to play for a Saudi club for an unreasonable amount of money per season, I can bet you that a lot of his personal struggles could have been solved, or he would have been able to better handle them. That's all I'm saying because money does have that kind of power. If he had that option, like if just a question, if Delhi Ali had the option to move to the Saudi Pro League and make a huge amount of cash, I don't think anyone would have been at that time. No one would have been surprised, given what we know now because of his interview. That's basically the point that I want to make. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, 100%.
So there you have it. It's not really a people can have their opinions, and to a certain extent, they are right that oh man, this guy is sacrificing his career like he is now. What they mean by saying they're sacrificing his career, that means that he is not gonna achieve football heritage. Like he's not going to achieve levels or being go down in the history books. That's the kind of sacrifices in their career they're talking about. They're not talking about sacrificing their careers financially,
Yeah,
because if a normal person who's not an athlete, who's working a 9 to 5 job at an office, if they change their careers for financial reasons, no one is going to say they're sacrificing their careers. Like
that's true.
in that sense.
Yeah, from a commercial standpoint, I mean, actually, he's improving his career because the main
Yeah,
objective of a career is to receive money, and he's receiving more money. So, from a commercial standpoint, it's definitely an advantage. I think we can move on to the Mbappe saga now. It's a very interesting topic, this, because Mbappe is definitely a phenomenon when it comes to football. I mean, he's absolutely unreal. The match of speed and dribbling is something the greats, someone like Ronaldo, R9, or Henri, these were the type of people that you have similarities with Mbappe. So
yeah,
it's quite interesting. And I was thinking the other day, Nasser Al Khalafi, their president, has stated that he's given around 2 weeks and he has to make the decision that he's either going to sign the contract or he's going to be sold. And I wonder that are PSG leaving themselves with enough time to find a suitable replacement? I know they have an unlimited cash budget, and the likes of Rafael Leao and these guys could be tempted to join PSG as they're a very big club. So I do
yeah.
wonder, are PSG leaving themselves with enough time to replace a player of Mbappe's capacity?
First of all, you have to understand that you cannot replace Zimbabwe. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think even you cannot find a player that is a like for like replacement for Kylian Mbappe. That's just a fact, and I think PSG have made their peace with that. Personally, in a footballing term, as I've stated, you cannot replace Mbappe. The fact of the matter is, PSG have been signing superstars from all different leagues: Angel Di Maria, Edison Cavani, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic even, but they still haven't been able to make that much of an impact in the Champions League. And we all know that the French league is not that competitive, so winning that is almost a given for them. So footballing concerns are, I think, not a priority for PSG. As I mentioned, that Kylian Mbappe, known as the best footballer currently in the world, he looking at it from a business point of view, that is your biggest asset. There is no sense in letting your asset go on a free. So personally, I think PSG putting their foot down and telling him to make a decision and even making it time bound, I think that's a good move because there will be a resolution. There will only two things are going to come out of it. Either Kylian is going to move and PSG get their money. All right, pretty good. Or Kylian signs a new contract and PSG get to retain their asset. Now, I'm not exactly sure, but I think Kylian is how old is Mbappe? Like 26?
24, I believe. 24.
Like he's 24. Like PSG can hold him down to a new contract and his value will still increase. And that is what they're hoping for. It's kind of like when you're buying land, it just incrementally increases. For Kylian Mbappe, he's that kind of asset that whose value is going to increase over time. I'm sorry to make that kind of a real world analogy, but that was the best way that I could explain it. Barring any injuries or that kind of thing, assuming that he stays fully healthy, his value is going to increase. So, from PSG's point of view, there's another factor to this. Like I said, they've been signing superstars from all the different leagues in order to get far into the Champions League and even win it. They've had Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe, but they still weren't able to do so. So I think in terms of football in terms, they want to now go away from signing the big superstars and they want to now focus on quality. Not saying that the superstars weren't of quality, but you know that it's not just about having good players around the team. I mean, we saw Chelsea last season; they had
Mm,
on
yeah.
paper they had a lot of talent, but they weren't able to execute any of or channel that talent into any football plans that could be executed in order to get them goals and wins. So what I'm trying to say is, in terms of football, PSG are not prioritizing or like saying, okay, we're gonna drop down in terms of our levels because they know they've already got the French league in the bag. So they just want to get to the higher, further place in the Champions League, and they weren't able to do it with Messi, Neymar, and Kylian Mbappe. So they're not going to go like, okay, so if we lose Mbappe, we might suffer in the Champions League. They're already underperforming in the Champions League. So personally, my assessment is that PSG are currently looking to save their money because they have a really good asset on their hands and they have set a timeline in order to either cash in on him or retain him. Simple as that. That is my assessment of this question.
Yeah, and I think it's because I think for a long period of time, Mbappe was seen as someone who was in control of the situation, as PSG were basically
Yeah.
just, putting their knees on the floor and they were like, we're just going to keep giving you these sort of clauses and just sign with us, just sign with us. And I think some of that goes to the fact that they don't want to make a capital loss on him. They probably will because first off, they signed him for 180 million, and on top of that, he's making unreal amount of wages. So they probably will register a capital loss, but they do want to return some of that money.
Yep.
That in case if it comes down to Real Madrid buying him this season, they will not buy him for, let's say, lower than 100 million, in my opinion.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah,
in a transfer market where Declan Rice is going for 115 million,
yeah,
and so obviously he's going to be 150 in my assessment, like at least 120, if not 150. And your point about being in a capital loss because of buying Mbappe and paying his wages, we cannot be sure of that because the thing is that a football club makes monies in a lot of different ways, sponsorships, partnerships, and a big part of that is shirt sales. Now, Kylian Mbappe is a brand, so a lot of kids are gonna
yes,
want shirts of Kylian Mbappe at the back. So that all translates into like all of the shirt sales of Kylian Mbappe. Those earnings are gonna be wrapped up against his initial 180 price tag and what he's been earning in wages. So we can actually be sure that PSG is actually in a capital loss because when Cristiano Ronaldo went back to Man United, they had or when he went to Juventus, they had a huge boost in their shirt sales. So the fact of the matter is that it might have been even more financially lucrative for PSG if Kylian Mbappe stayed with them. So you can say that this so they might actually make less money if they sell Kylian Mbappe for 120 or 150 million than they do by retaining him and paying him his monstrous wages, which is like really hard to contemplate, but still, it's just you could say a different line of thinking in this regard.
yeah. I understand your point of view, but I think what I was trying to reiterate was the fact that PSG selling him now would cut the losses that they have probably made. And you are right about the point that shirt sales could, and Kylian Mbappe is a brand in the
Yeah,
sense that he will,
speculation, we can't really comment on that, like if
yeah,
they're in capital or capital gain. But you are right that you do incur losses by signing players on such a high price tag and keeping them on such monstrous wages. And by selling them, yeah, they stop the bleeding. So yeah, makes sense.
yeah, and I would like to know that if Real Madrid were unable to sign Mbappe this season, and Mbappe does see the money that PSG are offering, and it's a very unlikely scenario. I would like to ask you, who do you think Real Madrid could look for in terms of replacing Benzema? Because we know the Bayern director came out and said that Harry Kane has agreed personal terms with us, and I think Victor Osimhen is looking a very difficult signing for Real Madrid. So, in your opinion, if they do not sign Mbappe this season, who could Real Madrid look to be their number nine for the future?
A few of the names that come up, like you mentioned, Harry Kane is a very suitable replacement. He will give you a lot of goals, and he might even replace the goals that Benzema was scoring, and so can Victor Osimhen. But the fact of the matter is that I think Harry Kane and Bayern Munich, that is a transfer saga that is progressing a bit. So I don't know if that's gonna play into this. But if Real Madrid miss out on Mbappe, they're going to need a striker up front. And that striker, in my personal opinion, given their history of signing young players to the next generation and then slowly phasing out the Modric's, the Cruzes, and Benzema, they've already let go of. I think Victor Osimhen would fit in really well. And the reason I say that because he fits that age profile, and they will be building a team not for not just the present but also the future. That is the quality of these players that they are signing nowadays. Now, Victor Osimhen may be hard. We know that the president of Napoli is a very hard negotiator. But one thing that I've seen is that money talks. Like Sandro Tonali, he was a boyhood AC Milan fan. The guy, like, he was called the next Pirlo, and he loved AC Milan, but he left because the club, and you might be able to comment more on this. So the story, or as I understand it, is that AC Milan were in financial trouble. They needed to generate some income, some cash inflow. So they sold Sandro Tonali. And I think there was a bit of internal turmoil why they let go of Maldini as their sporting director, which I thought was
Mhm.
weird. But if Sandro Tonali is someone who loved the club, if he can leave for Newcastle, then what's stopping Victor Osimhen from moving to Real Madrid? He now Victor Osimhen, he dreams of playing at the big leagues. He wants heritage. He doesn't want the financial side of his career. He wants the history books path of his career. He wants to play for the best of the best, and he wants his name etched in history, football heritage. So now the only thing remaining is the money. Now, Victor Osimhen, I think he was already stated to be worth 100 million. So if Real Madrid can afford to conjure up or get 120 and 150 million for Kylian Mbappe, I'm sure they can spend 110, 115, or even 120 on Victor Osimhen. Money talks. The Napoli's president, he's not gonna, because he's an stout
Say no to
businessman.
that. Yeah.
He's a hard negotiator, but he knows the value of his assets, and he knows that if he's getting more for his assets than his current valuation, he's not gonna waste any time. It's like, all right, he's yours. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think Osimhen's, you said perfectly there. He suits the profile that Real Madrid would want as a striker, and they
Mhm.
can definitely transition him into a brand as well.
Yeah.
So I think this was a pretty good talk, and we've had a pretty engaging in discussion in various topics, and I'd love to hear your input especially the Saudi Arabia part of the discussion. And it's been great having you on the show. I hope you're doing fine and take care.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.